Hello.
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 Hello. Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm sorry for delaying it by 10 minutes. I'm really sorry for that, firstly.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
I think we are good to go.
Yes, perfect. Am I visible to you properly?
Sure, yes, we can see you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, good evening to everyone. Today we have with us architect Simran Boparai from Space 5 Architects. They are a brother-sister duo based out of Amritsar, running their practice from Ranjit Avenue. I happen to know more details because I have visited them personally. And they are involved in all kind of projects in terms of residential, hospitality, commercial, etc.
Yes.
And Simran and Harkaran specialize in, I would say, the kind of houses we normally get to see in Punjab. Some of them may be neoclassical, etc. So today's topic for the viewers I'd like to share is advances in fenestration design and functionality.
Yes.
So Simran, is there anything you would like to kind of tell our viewers about yourself and the firm?
Yeah, so Space 5, it's being run by me and my brother, Harkaran. So we have been into practice from past 5 years, and I feel that as an architect, I believe that architecture is more about a storyline, like a narrative. It's important to bind the emotions of everyone because everyone who comes to us have some dreams. It's like their dream home. So I feel binding that story right from the planning till execution and coming up to the expectation of people is something which has been my core principle. So today, as we talk about fenestration, which we'll talk later in this video, I think I'll be able to share my best of my knowledge with everyone. So yeah, that will be all from my side.
So okay, that's a great introduction. So I think let's get hooked on to our question and answer session. So the
Yes.
first question we have for you today is that obviously, there's a very prominent trend these days in architecture that people want to use and architects want to use very slim design in terms of systems as well as the hardware. So what
Yes.
are your thoughts, on that? And, again, I want to add to it that we have been a country which has actually used wood for
Mm-hmm.
the for more time than these products have been introduced, the new age products like in aluminium
Yes.
and UPVC. So I mean, what are your thoughts about it, and what is it that your customers probably seek from you in terms of using these new age products, which reflect, I would say, minimalism, slim design,
Sleep
etc. So
profiles.
both
Yeah, I
ways.
understand.
Yeah,
See,
yeah.
Nitin, I personally feel that it's largely about the aesthetics of the building, right? As an architect, when I'm designing a building, when we talk about fenestration, right, we take that aesthetics of building is very important. We do consider the functionality. We do consider that while we are designing, we are coming up to we are meeting all the needs and the requirements of the client. But when we talk about the slim profiles, when we talk about large glass facades in fenestration, I feel that it has so much of advantage in the look. And apart from that, the larger the glass, I feel like these days we have seen all glass facades. So why is it? The main reason behind that, number one, obviously aesthetics. Number two, I feel it connects you with the environment. You are like, there is an inside and outside relationship which is always maintained, and obviously you get so much abundant amount of natural light that the dependence on electricity, it kind of reduces. So today we also have to take into consideration the profiles, the fenestration, which reduces our dependence on energy. Largely we are aiming at more energy efficient buildings and designing all the fenestration in a way that it's more energy efficient. Yeah. And yes, obviously
Correct.
slim profiles are for the look, are for that when we are designing an elevation these days. When we talk about big villas, most of the people, they want to have huge picture windows, because the obviously all the views, you try to bring as much nature inside. You want to get those beautiful views which are around the villa. So I think fenestration plays a very important role in that. Yeah.
Okay, great. So I'll just, kind of summarize for our viewers the
Yeah.
answer that probably Simran is trying to communicate. Obviously, the first thing that she wants to communicate is that at the end of the day, when we talk about slim hardware or slim architecture, or let's say slim systems, it is more to do with the architecture of that particular building. I mean, you
Yeah.
simply cannot be having a slim product being used in a classical house for that matter.
Exactly.
I mean, that will
Exactly.
not go by the aesthetics that are required.
Mm-hmm.
So the first
Yeah.
thing which is very important is that the product, which is these days becoming popular, be
Hmm.
used in conjunction with the architecture that the house is being
House
built
has.
upon. That's
Yes,
one.
that is very
That's the
important.
one. And the second thing I would like to sum up what Simran is trying to communicate is what she means is that although large glass facades are in fashion,
Yeah.
I think indirectly it becomes a responsibility of the architect
Hmm.
to use them wisely so as to even control the, I would say, the thermal energy that
The
they bring
thermal
in, or let's say
comfort, obviously. Yeah.
exactly. So basically, it all boils down to the architecture of the building, number one, and
I
number
feel
two is
that
that
it's the
when
duty of every architect, while you're designing the fenestration, you take into consideration all these factors. Every architect would obviously pay a lot of attention to the aesthetics, to the look, but to take into consideration the energy efficiency, the thermal comfort, I think that is equally important.
yeah, so basically it just makes the job of the architect, more responsible in terms of recommending a product, but at the same time guiding it how it can be used in the right manner.
Exactly. Yes.
Right. Okay. So let's move on to our next question, which is, more to do with obviously energy efficiency and thermal comfort. So, I mean, although you touched this subject in your first answer, how
Mm-hmm.
would you, recommend to a customer who's a layman in understanding all these,
Mm-hmm.
engineering words? How
Mm-hmm.
would you kind of recommend what are the basics that they should be looking at in terms of controlling the thermal energy as well as the light transmittance in the building. So what are your key, I would say,
Like the
pointers for the
like
customers
how
to
to
keep in
yeah,
mind?
go back. See, I feel that while you're designing a building, the first and foremost important thing is the form of the building. So while you're designing, you take into consideration the form. Number two, definitely the orientation, right? So form and orientation are two key factors which you can take into consideration while you're planning and designing for any of the fenestration. Apart from that, obviously the energy efficiency, as you said, has to be taken in note. But how to achieve that is, I feel, these two are the most important key principles for that. Yeah.
Okay, so what Simran is trying to convey is that obviously we need to look at various factors such as visible light transmittance. I mean, I'm just
Yeah.
putting some technical words to what she's trying to communicate, as well as
Mm-hmm.
solar heat gain coefficient, which are the two factors. And there's another factor called U factor as well, which we'll
You
discuss in
factor.
the
Yeah.
later part of our discussion.
Yeah.
So ultimately, it boils down to, the numbers that we can obtain from the particular system and the glass that is being used in terms of these three aspects. And
Exactly.
once the architect or the facade consultant or the HVAC consultant or frankly the fenestration supplier is
Mm-hmm.
able to supply these, it becomes easy for the architect as well as the customer to understand what a larger glass facade is going to bring in with it, and a more informed and responsible decision can be probably taken.
And I also feel that when we talk about a larger glass facade, glass, according to me, when you compare it to wood, wood would need more maintenance. It would like it,
Correct.
even when we talk about other weathering agents like rain, you can say storm. So wood is something which will get more affected from these. While if I take a larger glass facade, I feel that won't need that much of maintenance. So that is another factor which we can obviously take into consideration while we are designing the fenestration of the building.
Okay, and I'll add on to it as well that in coming times, obviously I can speak in favor of aluminum as of now, which is as of
Yeah.
now a non-thermal break product. But
Yeah.
in coming times, we are going to soon have a thermal break product, which is definitely going to be more thermally resistant to temperature variations
Yeah.
inside and outside. And but what customers can look at today is obviously use of a low E glass, which is called a low emissivity glass, which kind of brings in the required heat and also brings in only the required amount of light that you probably a customer probably wishes to or an architect
Yes.
probably wishes to. But
Apart
and
from
this
that,
subject obviously is
I would add here something that you can also, if you want to really develop those energy efficient building, you want to maintain the thermal comfort, you can go for internal and external shading devices. Since you deal in
correct.
aluminium, you must be aware there are so many technologies which have come up. So they help to maintain the temperature inside a building. Just an add-on to
Correct.
fenestration, that's something which we,
So
as you were
basically,
designing.
that's an additional solution. I
Yeah,
mean, then
additional
how
apart
now
from that.
Simran is basically talking about, I would say, a complete fenestration
Yes,
solution, wherein not only by using elements which are exposed to the weather and
hmm,
sun, but also elements that can be used inside the
inside,
fenestration
yes.
that can help us to kind of control
Yeah,
the energy
temperature,
efficiency as
shading.
well as
Yeah,
I mean, adding the shading coefficient in the building.
exactly. Yes.
Okay. So let's move on to our next question, which is more to do with although again I touched it, the U factor of the window, the visible light transmittance, the solar heat gain coefficient, which are the key parameters that one has to look at in terms of designing of the windows or
Design.
recommending
Yeah.
windows to the customers. What are your views upon on that? I mean, is the customer yet mature to understand that? And if not, how do architects actually go about it?
So I feel as an architect, it's very important to guide your clients and to make them aware about it. Why? Because the properties of the product what you are using is something which is very important. These days, you must know the window system. They've developed their own energy rating system, right? So a client may not be aware about it, but as an architect, it's our duty and responsibility that since we are making energy efficient buildings, so we need to educate the client and explain him all these energy rankings so that he can make a wiser decision, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I mean, just taking a leaf out of what you said, I understand that, energy efficiency calculations do not only kind of consist of calculations that we get from fenestration solutions, but
Mm-hmm.
obviously when we have to look at green buildings or for that matter,
Better,
zero
yeah.
rating buildings,
Hmm.
which is, I mean, I think this is a subject which is going to be addressed in the next 5 years. I mean, when
Hmm.
it comes to residences. But
Hmm.
what do you think that needs to be added to the industry where a common person, a simple person who's building a house can
Hmm.
also have access to, this information? Do you think it is the HVAC consultants or for that matter, the customers should open up to hiring, I would say, green building consultants so that they can give you the right calculations for every room and rather the whole house? Why? Because fenestration is one element. I mean, then you have
Hmm.
walls. You also know probably what kind of air conditioning that you are using,
Exactly,
and
yeah.
I have come across in my experience when I try to tell customers that a double glass would save
Yeah,
this much of heat.
yeah.
Obviously, he's not aware that
He
okay, it
doesn't know
saves
what
heat.
a double glass, what means very
Yeah,
rare
so he ends up
customers
saying,
know.
yeah, so he ends up saying, oh, ਅਸੀਂ ਜੀ, air condition na double ton da ਲਵਾ ਲਾਂਗੇ. So I give it a laugh and I said, ji, okay, I mean, in a way, you're not saving energy.
Yeah.
You're basically trying to secure yourself to, not having some discomfort. So
Yes.
what do you think that should be introduced in the market or let's say in the industry, wherein obviously people go to architects for aesthetic designing of the
I think,
houses?
but first duties of the architect, because whenever they'll meet an architect as a designer, I need to educate them. After that, obviously, an HVAC consultant can guide them through it. I think there is a lack of information amongst the clients. They're not much aware about
Correct.
this. They largely rely on whatever the architect says blindly, you can say. But I feel that it's important to have something specific, like you said, a consultant that can guide them through
Correct.
it and that can educate them that what actually we are talking about. What is a DU glass? They don't know what it is. We in our terms
Correct.
obviously know. So it's very important to give the proper sort of information to the client.
And I think it is very important that the consultant is able to tell the customer the value or the saving he would gain in terms of actual money that is getting saved,
Yes,
or in how much time he would get the returns of
the
the
result.
present
Yeah.
investment he's making. Because
Mm-hmm.
there are many people, as Simran said, that yes, they don't know
They don't
what a
know.
DGU is. It is
Yeah.
they are basically following a trend. अच्छा जी उन्होंने
Yeah,
लगाया सी
they
तो अच्छा, let's use DGU, and the architect is saying it.
I have clients which come to me, they don't know what UPVC, there are few brands, they are on their tongue, Finesta laga do, ye laga do, wo laga do. So they're not aware of what actually,
Correct.
what all materials of fenestration are. Whatever they have heard, they just come to us and they say, my friend has done this, so I want you also do the same, follow the trend. So I feel the
Yeah, so
education
basically,
something.
yeah, I mean, you're right. So basically, if I have to put it in a different way, people are basically driven by the brand perception that they
Yes,
have in their mind.
I
For
feel.
them, fenestration is a product,
Hmm.
and the market is changing from the conventional wood, which was more carpentry based, and now it is
Yes,
moving towards more engineered product. So
yes,
there, just to not to take end up taking a wrong decision, they
yes,
tend to go in for the brand perception more than
yes.
actually going into the details of what the product offering
What
is.
And as the
Correct?
properties we discussed, I don't think clients are much aware about it. They don't know what the U coefficient is, thermal coefficient. They're not aware of it. So I feel we should
Correct.
have some specific consultation team for that as well. I think that's a good add-on.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to also tell the viewers that in metros we do have green building consultants.
Mm-hmm.
There is something called as an ECBC code, which is called
Yes.
energy conservation. Correct. So now, as per that, we have consultants who've already started, their practices in metros, wherein they are consulting to bigger projects
Mm-hmm.
like IT park buildings, hospitals, etc., where it has become mandatory by ECBC.
Mm-hmm.
And also some, I would say, forward looking or proactive people who are building their residences are
Mm-hmm.
also availing their services for their own residences. So
Exactly.
here the architect, yeah, so here the architect kind of aligns
With them.
their designs
Mm-hmm.
with these kind of consultants who
Consultant.
give suggestions about
To come with
what
the
materials.
proper, yeah, yeah, exactly. To come
Yeah,
with the
and
proper
it's
energy solution.
correct, energy solution, as well as they also recommend use of sustainable products.
Yes.
Right, so that becomes very important. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
for achieving thermal efficiency, if you're not using a sustainable product, the whole exercise,
The whole practice
it
turns to the zero. Yes.
is a failure for that matter. So
Yes.
I would definitely say that people who are forward looking, they should definitely look at
Definitely.
looking at these kind of people who can help them
Mm-hmm.
design their houses in a better way. At the
Mm-hmm.
same time, uh, as far as my experience with these people is concerned, they definitely give you a cost benefit
Cost
analysis.
benefit in the
As
long
in,
run, which the clients need to understand,
yes,
that they just look at the initial cost, but they forget about that in the long run. That's gonna be a bigger return for them. They just say that no, ma'am, initially it's too much. I won't go for this, but they
correct.
should look at a longer run, I feel.
Yeah, so the cost benefit analysis is that
Yeah.
what they can get, and for so that they can take a wiser decision at the
Yes.
end of the day.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to our next question now. Obviously, we boil down to the materials that probably you as an architecture firm proposes or recommends to its customer. So, what is your personal favorite out of UPVC, aluminium, engineered wood that is already available in the market these days? And why? And how do you recommend that? How do you make up your mind on what to use?
That's a tough question, I would say. But yes, as far as see, we come across new materials every day. But I feel wherever I have used aluminium windows, particularly, I think the results have been good. And apart from that, the kind of look that I want to achieve when I talk about big modern villas, where I want to go with those slim profiles, where I want a full glass exposure, I want to get big, big picture windows. I personally love aluminium in that way because I am a very form oriented person and I believe a lot in aesthetics. For me, it's very important as a designer. So yes, I think rather go for aluminium. And maybe, but these days in market there are a lot of variations of these fiberglass variations have come. A lot of other things have been introduced in the market, which obviously over the time we'll test in our projects, and then I think I can recommend something better. But as of now, my time tested is aluminium.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll add on in favor of UPVC as well. So, so UPVC obviously, naturally is a thermal break material. So when
Hmm.
you talk about UPVC, it tends to restrict heat transfer from outside to
Outside
inside.
side, yes.
Uh, yeah, so that's a very natural advantage to it
Hmm.
in comparison to other materials that are
Yes.
available like aluminum. And the second thing
Also
is that
soundproofing. That's also something which we both forgot.
that comes naturally. And the second thing is this, that also UPVC, you do have cheaper alternatives
Yes.
available as compared to aluminum. So
Yes.
obviously, when a customer is going to build his house, he is not only looking at, I would say, the product, but he's also looking at his budget. I mean, that's
Yes.
very important because
That.
since the practice in India so far is not to have a consolidated budget for a house and then try and build a house, but take one product at a time.
Yes.
And there sometimes you end up spending more. Why? Because you don't have a bigger picture. I mean, it should be
Hmm.
that, okay, if you end up spending more in one thing, what is your total budget getting affected by? What is the dent, and how do you kind of plan to adjust that dent by using something else which can offset it.
Yes.
So since
Totally
people are
agree.
not using it like that, so yes, that is why people end up falling in for UPVC, which is not a
Hmm.
bad product when it comes
Yeah,
to,
it's not bad.
I would say, pocket friendly, I mean, solution, as well as a natural thermal break.
Yes.
Although for larger spans, or let's say
Bigger.
for larger glasses, UPVC becomes a little difficult to use. Why? Because it does not have the strength of a metal,
Yes.
and it's not able to carry that large spans. So, I mean, both the products have their own
Own
advantages and
advantages.
disadvantages, and, right? And I think people should rely on the architects and the fenestration solution providers to, give in
Yeah,
their
because the
suggestions and
architect
the
obviously
call
is more
accordingly.
aware about the overall look and feel that the architect wants to give to the house. So I think that's very important.
Yeah.
So you should
So
always
let's move
listen
on
to your
to,
architect.
so,
So I,
yeah.
I'm just saying that you should always listen to your architect.
See, at the end of the day, it's very simple. Why, and I'll back it up. Why, how do I say that is that the only person who's controlling the project, other than obviously the customer who has
Hmm.
a lack of knowledge in terms of the options available, the
Hmm.
engineering solutions available, the aesthetics kind of doing the trend. It's like fashion designing. I mean, you just
Yes,
could not be wearing bell bottoms when it is contemporary age. But
exactly.
when you go back in those times, that was the fashion. So that's where, the customer has to depend on architect. And
Hmm.
why do I say people should depend on architect is because they are not looking at one thing in only a very limited perspective. They're looking
Yes.
at that one particular window decision by the perspective of the whole house, which
Yes.
sometimes the customers tend to miss. Why? Because they are only looking at one thing at a time. And whenever someone comes to me and asks me, I mean, you tell us what is good and bad for us. So I
Mm-hmm.
always tell them, see, I can only tell you what is good for you is ventilation, what is good for you, more light, what is good for
Hmm.
you is more nature. But
Yes.
how to use these elements in the design, you have to refer to an architect.
Architect, yes.
Yeah. So
Perfect.
so
I
so
think we
I would
should
like to
wrap the
definitely,
session, Nitin, because I am running short of time.
sure.
Yes.
Sure, no problem. I think we've almost covered all the questions. I
Yeah, we
mean,
have.
anything, your last words on the subject of the day, advances in fenestration design and
Mm,
functionality?
I would just say that I think you have wrapped it up in a beautiful way. That that you should rely on your architect. We should have a good consultant, and obviously, I feel we should aim at designing energy efficient buildings at the end of the day because that is the future. So we, as an architect, we need to understand that we need to educate our clients for same and try to make the buildings which achieve good thermal comfort from the inside. They means like zero waste building. So it's tough to achieve that, but we should obviously try for that. So yeah, that is something I would add on the last.
Okay,
Any
well said
final
then.
thoughts from you?
From me, I
Yes.
think I already said enough for people. And what we'll do is we'll kind of, pen down a few takeaways and add
Okay.
it as a story so
Yeah,
that we can save time. At the same time, people can read it.
they can
And
read.
if they find something interesting, they can come back to the session to
Yes.
review what we said all. I think we've touched all the, I would say, topics of the day.
Topic. Yeah.
So well said, Simran. It was a
Thank
pleasure to
you.
have you today with us.
Same here.
We would welcome you that whensoever next you're visiting Chandigarh, please come to visit our experience
I am
center.
in
And
Chandigarh though
also,
right
okay,
now.
so
So
you're
I'm
most
at the
welcome
Chandigarh
to,
office. Yeah.
Okay, so you're most welcome to visit us anytime, to visit our experience center, so that we can, have a better discussion on the subject. And we'll definitely try and visit you the next time we are visiting
Definitely.
your city.
Most welcome.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so
Thank
much.
you
Thank you to
for your
everyone who
time.
watched the session. Bye bye. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.